many of you would agree that life is really about transition. We are either headed into a transition time, we are in a transition time, or we're coming out of a transition time. In transition, there are changes that take place. A transition might come about because of a change of job, maybe a loss of job. Maybe transition comes about because of a failed marriage. And in transition is really where we are truly challenged to embrace whether or not we are maturing in our Christ-likeness. But what happens? We get stuck in our own minds, we get stuck in our heads, we don't know exactly what to do. And the reality is this: the greatest thing that we can do when we're there is surrender. Surrender, again, to not what we desire, but what God desires. God is hanging out, and Satan comes along. God says, hey, what are you up to? Satan says, well, I've been just walking back and forth on the earth trying to figure out who I can pick off, who I can get off of your team and onto mine. And God said, have you ever considered my servant Job? Now think about that for a second. If God thought so much of our faith, so much of our relationship with Him, that He was willing to look at Satan and say, have you ever considered my servant Ashley? Hey, you ever considered my servant Roger? You ever consider, does that not give you a little bit of chills? Because if He's doing that, you got something coming down the pike. But the bottom line is, if God's saying that, He knows you have the strength within you to persevere and to be a witness through the middle of it on what can happen when you continue to maintain your faith in a God who is good. Chew on that for a minute, because that's worth the price of admission. That may very well help you with a why behind something that you had to experience. And where you're standing today is because you were willing to stay faithful, even though there would be times where you questioned, you had your doubts, you had it, but you're here today because you maintained and you grew. You grew through the transition because you knew one way or another that God is still good.